Costs are coming down. Renewables are now the economic solution for off-grid supply. So for instance, if you're on an island, you have a remote area in your country which is predominantly based on diesel-fired generation, renewables now offer a mature solution which is cheaper and sometimes significantly cheaper. So this is a good news story, particularly for small island nation states, for instance, in that they can get some significant economic benefits from the deployment of renewables. But what we've also seen is there is the increasing competitiveness of renewables for grid supply. It's important to remember that the mature technologies, hydro, biomass, geothermal, although they may be limited in their actual ability resource in a given area, they still offer the lowest cost electricity generation of any kind, renewable or fossil, at the best sites. What we're seeing here is a virtuous circle. The newer technologies, for instance wind and solar PV, have been only relative, we're talking about technologies that have been deployed at large scale for only a relatively short period, a number of 1 or 2 decades. But particularly for solar PV, we have what is called high learning rates. For every doubling in the installed cumulative capacity, typically you see a fixed cost reduction in percentage terms. So the solar PV market, for instance, is growing very rapidly. In 2011 we saw around 30 gigawatts of new capacity, which actually increased the total installed to around 70. So very rapid deployment, and costs are coming down very quickly. Wind turbine prices, for instance, came off this curve. They were quite high for a number of years, but they've come, in the last 2 years they've come off their peak, and what we've seen, this is in OECD countries, is a quite significant cost reduction. But the long-term potential of the entrant of countries like China and India as manufacturers, we've seen a bit of a two-step or a two-level cost structure. China and India are able to produce and install these technologies sometimes at a significantly lower cost. And as we're seeing convergence in the market, average costs are coming down. Once you have a large established market for renewables, if you get the investment and policy framework right, you can see that companies will see the benefits of investing. They will see the certainty and rate of returns that can be offered by renewables, and the government's role at that stage is quite hands-off. However, for many of our member countries at IRENA, they're only just at the beginning of their development of the renewable market, and here you see much more of an active role for governments. It can still be the case that it can be more at a policy level rather than public-private partnership, but this depends a lot on country preferences as well. This is a choice. What we see, though, that there are successful models to start a new market in each case. But it's really in this initial market stage it's clear that governments have to help with providing investment certainty and reducing the perceived risk of investing in renewables.